Big D Entertainment, in association with Dipsy Doodle Productions, presents The Dave Holly Hour, brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, Excel Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. The Dave Holly Hour features Sioux Empire arts and entertainment conversations. A true lover of arts, entertainment, good food, and fun times, including an occasional Jack Daniels. Okay, so a few Jack Daniels. Here he is, Dave Holly.
First-timers, long-timers, welcome. Appreciate you taking the time to listen. Now, before we get to the gist of the show, I need to let you know that the Vaudee's next show at Remedy at 611 is Thursday, June 6th, 7:30 p.m. The modern-day vaudeville will include music from Bubba Starts, comedy with Alicia Rain, magic with Jesse Moffitt, juggler Joey Colombi, and the Dad Bod Supreme Band. Advance tickets are only $15. They are available at thevaudees.com. Vaudees is spelled V-A-U-D-I-E-S. Again, thevaudees.com. Now, even with that pesky little fee, you'll still save. But if you prefer, tickets at the door are $20. Enjoy the variety of great local entertainment. Coming up later in this show, filmmaker Max Hofer. In just a few minutes, comedian Dan Bublitz Jr. back in Sioux Falls for a show tonight. But first, let's pop the cork on this bubbly little show. Time to grab your favorite beverage, lift it high, and toast it to being Thursday, a.k.a. Weekend Eve.
Hey, the weekend isn't around the corner, it's here!
So long, hump day and your frumpy way. We say hello to Thursdays with opening nights. The weekend is near and we can see the bright lights. Yes, Thursday, you're so hearty, we can't wait for Friday, so a day early, we start the party. Whatever you're drinking and whatever you're drinking it out of might very well be determined by where and when you're listening. My choice, a Jasper Newton Jack Daniels Diet Coke with a lime. For you, whether it's a cup of coffee, a spot of tea, a glass of milk, a bottle of water, mug of beer, a cocktail, glass of wine, flute of champagne, lift it high and toast to the memories of longtime TV news anchor Doug Lund here in Sioux Falls. I believe he would enjoy having a toast in his name. Sadly, he passed away this week. There was a time when I worked at Kello AM Radio, and he was over at Kello TV. I appeared on his Monday Menu segment once, and it was great to have the opportunity to experience his lighter side and humor, aside from his stately news delivery. He was a drummer for many years with Mogan's Heroes, and he could sing, especially when he performed Fly Me to the Moon. When he would see me and my wife, he would mention something that maybe we'd just posted on Facebook and then look at Carrie and say, "He always calls you my love." It was just nice of the man to recognize the humanity. Farewell, Doug Lund. Cheers to you. Speaking of cheers, which just happens to rhyme with beers, say cheers with a beer or your favorite cocktail at Chasers, West 12th Street and Ellis Road. Make sure you grab some food while you're at it. Join me Monday nights for Dave Holly Hour Trivia starting at 7. However, this coming Monday, it's going to be no trivia as it is Memorial Day. We will be back at it Monday, June 3rd. Honorable mention. What over the past week made Dave laugh, guffaw, chuckle, chortle, giggle, simply smile, or maybe even shed a tear of joy? Old Town Dinner Theater. Their production of Little Shop of Horrors was well done. Many friends in the cast, and while I am biased, they all did great. Always loved the food and, of course, their fun ways of incorporating the show's theme. Death by chocolate as a dessert was as over-the-top as their monstrous flower. Later, we talked to filmmaker Max Hofer. He has his latest short film in an upcoming festival, and he's also helping to plan a local film fest. In just a few minutes, the always entertaining comic Dan Bublitz Jr. on the Dave Holly Hour.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics inside Oscar's Mini Storage. We have thousands of classic vintage ceramic mold items and several new items too. TJS Ceramics offers classes, special open studio nights, and completed ready-to-purchase items. Bisque studio time or painting parties are available. Visit TJS Ceramics Studio in person today or email tjsceramics@gmail.com for more details.
Take in the great works at Serendipity Studio and Gift Gallery in the Shriver Building. So many great works from regional artists. They offer so many ways for everyone to participate or interact with the studio as well as its artists. Check your calendar and make your plans to participate at Serendipity Studio. Friday night at 5 is a nature reception in the Rotational Gallery, and Saturday afternoon at 3, there's a heavy texture poppies guided paint class. Visit their website at serendipitystudiosd.com for a full list of upcoming events. Again, that is serendipitystudiosd.com. Serendipity Studio, located downtown Sioux Falls in the historic Shriver Building at 230 South Phillips Avenue on the second floor.
Are you an artist? Need some funding to further your art? There's a great opportunity for you through a Sioux Falls Arts Council program. The Artist Microgrant program gives away several microgrants to local artists, no matter what art discipline you're in. Unlike more traditional grants, a microgrant is very easy to apply for. Go to artssiouxfalls.org. If you haven't done so yet, create a listing on the Artist Directory, which is beneficial in its own way. Then go to the Artist Microgrants page and apply online. The process is simple. Find out more about the Sioux Falls Arts Council as well online at artssiouxfalls.org.
Funny, engaging, connected. He's the entertainment reporter for Sioux Falls. Here's Dave Holly.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Yes, it is a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire Arts and Entertainment. You know what I love talking about. It's everything involved in arts and entertainment. And we're chiming in. I haven't even introduced him yet, and he already wants to speak via his phone. Oh, always great to have a returning guest, and this time he returns to Sioux Falls from Colorado. Comedian Dan Bublitz Jr. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Apparently, my work phone. That's my work phone. I have two phones, as you can see.
Yes.
I'm not a douche. I just have two phones. One's for work. I always feel like that, though. I feel like a kind of a douche when I walk around with two phones. Like,
yeah.
I'm just like that guy, and I'm like, it's a work phone. Okay.
Yeah. You know, if it were an episode of Friends, the one with the guy that had two phones.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, well, first of all, welcome back. And of
It's
course,
good to be back. It's good to see you.
What's great is that you're going to be performing tonight.
I am.
Yeah.
And I haven't performed in Sioux Falls in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of, obviously I come back for Snow Jam,
and so forth.
But when I come back from Snow Jam, I might host a show, but I don't really perform like a full hour. And I'll be headlining this show tonight, so I'll be doing at least 45 minutes.
Yeah, and this will be at Lucky's, correct?
Yeah, yep. Club 222 in Lucky's.
Yeah,
that little speakeasy, what used to be Fat Daddy's. It's where I started comedy.
Really?
Yes, the first open mic I did was on that stage in that basement.
Oh my!
Yeah, 14
goes
years
around,
ago.
comes around, huh?
Yeah,
full circle. History repeating itself.
Full circle,
but better history now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, are you going to be mentioning that in your show tonight?
I probably will. Yeah, I'll probably
at least
mention
for nothing else. Nostalgic reasons and so forth. How far would you say you have come since that first?
Oh man,
mic?
I've come a long way since then. I got I've done comedy albums, I've done comedy specials, I've toured the country. I've, headlined clubs, and I've done colleges, and I mean, pretty much everything you can do in comedy, I've done at some point. I've worked with, comedians like Dana Carvey, Kevin Pollak. And just so many. I could just like name drop, but I don't want to do that. But so I've come so far.
It's incredible. What a journey you've had. And to think about it, that it wasn't all that long ago. It probably seems some days like yesterday, and some days it seems like, oh my God, that was a lifetime.
Yep, absolutely.
But what has been the favorite part for you in this journey?
I would say there's probably two things. One, the travel. I love what I love about comedy, especially at my level where, I would be considered a road comic. I'm not a household name, but so a lot of the shows that I do, I end up going into smaller markets, smaller towns and stuff. And so I've got to travel to places that I wouldn't normally try. Like if I wasn't doing comedy, I'd have no reason to go to these places. And so I get to see some really cool and interesting places. And the other thing I really liked about it is all the people that I've met. Like it really opened my mind up to diversity because, I grew up here in South Dakota. Right. I grew up in Huron, South Dakota, which, it's primarily white town. And I didn't know what other, ethnic groups were really outside of a few, families there in Huron. And comedy is what got me to leave South Dakota. And then I moved out to California, and I just it was so diverse and interesting and just really cool. And so I've gotten to meet all these cool, interesting people with all these different walks of life, different backgrounds, and just and so that to me is like one of the coolest things that comedy's done for me.
So you get a little culture along the way.
Yep.
But obviously there's that universal thing that you can't get away from laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And has it been fun to learn what other cultures enjoy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because that's always the challenging part. I mean, that's the most challenging part about being a comedian. I mean, you're trying to make a room full of strangers laugh, and you got to be universal. So you got to have, material that's going to work for all audiences, not just, culturally, but like, age too. Like you got to be able to relate to younger people. You got to be able to relate to older people and everything in between. You got to be able to relate to women and men and everything in between, and so you really have to hone in on that. And I think, experiencing other cultures and kind of just observing, you can kind of learn, what'll work and what don't, and then try to apply that so that it works for a general audience.
So you started off at an open mic. You're now a road comic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still participate in open mics if you see one?
Now and again I will. Yeah, I still go to mics here and there because I also produce shows in and around Loveland, and it's a good way for me to talent scout. Because I don't always, we want to get a good variety at our shows, mm-hmm. and sometimes there's somebody that's new that's pretty good, and you want to give them an opening spot. So I'll go and scout, and then sometimes I'll perform. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I don't go as much as I used to because I can work out material. If I'm doing a headlining set, I can work out some new material. I can squeeze some new material in there and kind of work that out. So, but it depends. I mean, I'm in town. I've been in town. My show's tonight, but I'm sure by now, even we're not recording today, but by now I've gone to an open mic here in town.
Right. And actually, it's kind of a twofold thing for you that you've got your show tonight, and the day that we happen to be recording this on is the previous Thursday, and you were very instrumental in what's happening with the fact that Mr. Nate Holtz is recording his comedy album.
Yep,
tonight.
And that's the main reason I'm here, honestly. I booked some shows while I was up here because I was like, well, if I'm going to make a trip up here, let's try to get some shows. And
tax deduction.
Yep, exactly. I can write it off, and then I had to take care of, I figure, well, then I can do some family stuff. So I'm just like, here we go. But Holtz is the whole reason I came up here.
But he was just on, a week previous, and he credits you with the last time that he did a headline show at Snow Jam, and you said, it's ready? When did you know it was ready for you?
For me? Oh, man, I've never known that it's ready. I just do it anyway. Honestly, after I recorded my album, I felt like it was ready because I went and really toured hard with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing pretty much any shows I could headline. I took a whole summer, probably 3 months, just of solid touring, doing breweries, bars, clubs, whatever, and really honing it out. But I didn't necessarily know it was ready. I just had a recording date, and I needed it. So whether it was ready or not, it was getting recorded because I already had paid for somebody to be there.
And you did a lot during COVID as well. You put on a lot of shows that were digital. Mm-hmm. Survived.
Yep.
And what does it take now to survive as a comic? Oh,
man. I mean, you always have to have... You have to have fortitude to keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely an industry where it's a make or break. Like, you're either in it or you're not. Because some of the things you have to go through that as a comedian, I've slept in my car, I've slept in tents, I've slept on floors, I've slept on couches, you name it. I've probably been in that situation. I've almost gotten fights, and, all kinds of things that happen. It sounds like a very luxurious life when you think about it as just comic. Oh, you see a big touring comic and you're like, oh, they're selling out arenas. Their life is great. But the reality of comedy is it's kind of a dangerous.
Yeah. And they went through the same thing that you've gone through as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we all have to take that road.
And one of the great parts is you happen to have a podcast as well.
Yep.
The Art of Bombing.
Yep, which I'm getting ready to bring back. It's been on a little bit of hiatus. I was going through some personal stuff that I had to get taken care of, and now I've got everything, kind of back in order. So I'm getting ready to launch season 8. I've been doing that podcast 7 years. I just celebrated 7 years for that podcast.
Take a longer break so I can catch up. It'll be 5. It'll be 5 for me in October. And come back on October 10th. We're having a party, by the way.
Ooh.
Because if it all falls in place, good Lord willing, creek don't rise, knock on wood, all the other stuff.
Things.
Yeah. That date will be the 250th episode and the 5th year anniversary of the start of the show.
Wow,
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's how my 5-year anniversary, I think, coincided with another like I did them 2 episodes in a row because I had 2 big guests. It was going to be one. It was going to be the 5-year and like the 250th episode or whatever. But then I was able to get Chad Daniels and Louis Anderson. And I was like, well, I'm going to do one for each of those.
Late great.
The late great.
Oh,
yes.
my. One of the best shows I ever saw here in Sioux Falls.
I believe it. He was fantastic. He was just like, I didn't know him well, but just from that interview that I got to do with him, he was so giving and just such a sweetheart.
Yeah, and when my wife worked out at the Sheraton, she got a free show because she had to work that night, and he says, "Well, stick around," because she had to go to his room. Because his sister said, well, just charge it to Louis, go down there. And so she does that, and she ends up helping him put on his pants and his shoes.
Oh, really?
Because at his bigger size at that point and so forth. So she has this great tale to tell about him, but she said it was just so neat that he would say, well, since you can't make it to the show, and did about a half hour.
Oh, wow.
Personal, That's and just that type of person.
That's amazing.
But, at some point, he bombed too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And, and that, and in that episode, we talk about that. And he talked about, like, what he learned from comedy. And there's a couple things that are really cool about comedy for me. So, one, Louis Anderson started comedy. I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly, his first mic that he did was October 11th, 1978.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my birth. That's the day I was born. 1977, October 11th, Saturday Night Live debuted. So I'm like, I'm destined to be like 2 great things.
Yes.
2 great things emerged in comedy on my birthday.
All right, so let's talk about the art of bombing then. What was your biggest bomb?
My biggest bomb? Well, no, there's probably been more, but I guess the bomb that inspired that show was I was doing a corporate gig for the EMS conference here in South Dakota. So it was emergency medical services. They do a bunch of training. They have speakers and, so on and so forth. And they have a big banquet dinner and they do an awards ceremony. And then they have some entertainment to kind of, decompress. And I was the entertainment. And I was originally supposed to perform during the dinner. And when they got there, they asked if I would wait and go after the dinner. And I was like, and I was fairly green when it came to doing corporate gigs, and, I wanted to be flexible. So I just, sure, that's fine. And in hindsight, I'm not flexible now. I tried, because I know what's going to work and what's not. Yeah, I learned exactly. But because I didn't know that the dinner included the awards ceremony and that it was a 3-hour ordeal. I thought dinner was like an hour and a half, and I'm like, okay, I can do that. But they did the award ceremony too. So anyway, they do the award ceremony, and the award ceremony is hosted by these two gentlemen that they've been hosting this event every year for the last 15 years.
Can't
together.
Change that.
Yep, no. Together. And they're both in the emergency medical services as well. And anyway, the one guy, he's older than the second, but all night he's doing Lena and Ole jokes crushing because, we're in the upper Midwest.
Right.
Scandinavian humor is huge up here. So he's killing with those jokes. Anyway, so we get towards the end of they're getting ready to do the last award. And the last award is the EMT of the Year award. And this particular year, the person that was going to get was a gentleman who had just passed away from a battle of cancer like 3 weeks before the event.
Posthumous award.
So they show a video of him, of the people that nominated him, it's him and his family, and then the people that nominated reading the nomination letter that they wrote to him in a room. And so everybody that's at this award ceremony is crying because this guy's like a saint. He's like everything you can be in a small town. He's teacher, coach, a deacon in the church, Boy Scout leader, part of, the volunteer fire, volunteer EMS, like every good thing a person can do. He was this person. So he's just a saint. And of course, everybody's like crying and, sad. And then that video ends and there's a standing ovation. And then they give the award and his wife accepts the award. So she comes up, says thank you and, whatever. And then another standing ovation. She goes and sits down. That's the last award. They have a thing at these events called the Last Rites Table, where they have a place setting for the fallen. And so they open the ceremony by setting that table, and then they close it by taking it away.
Right.
And so after that, they did that. They did their last rites placement thing or whatever. And then one of the hosts comes up to me and he says, all right, you can go up there now if you want. Just go ahead and go. And I was like, are you going to introduce me? And
really?
He was like, oh, I guess I can. And he goes up, all right, everybody, it's time for comedy. Please welcome our comedian Dan. And then I go up, and as I go up, people are leaving because they're tired and probably sad. And then there's people getting up. And, of course, the widow was sitting on a table in the front. So people are getting up to come over there and talk to her and give her their condolences. And it's a situation where I know as a professional, like, if that was happening at a comedy club, I could say something. But now I can't.
Considering the location.
And considering what was going on, the fact that, she lost her husband a few weeks ago and all these things. I couldn't say anything. I just had to let that happen.
Right.
And then, I just proceeded to not do very well. I think my biggest laughs were when I kind of riffed a little bit because I stumbled over words and I was like, maybe I'm having a stroke. And then I got to laugh. And I was like, but if I was going to have a stroke, I feel like this is the safest place to have a stroke. Unless you guys don't like me, you might let me die. And I think I got the biggest laugh. But and then I get done with my set. You know, I didn't do the full hour. I did like 55 minutes, and they were getting tired. It was late. They'd sat for 3 hours. They'd been sitting all day doing classes, training, all the things. So now I'm sitting at the table. I'm waiting for the lady to bring me my check. And the guy that's telling the Lena and Ole jokes all night comes up to me, and he says, I'm sitting there, and he goes, "Keep at it, kid. You'll get there." And I was like, the audacity. I was like, you're doing internet jokes. You're doing street jokes. And you have the audacity to come up and
jokes.
Tell me that I'll get there if I keep going. Like you just killed. And all I can think is my material was original.
Oh, goodness.
So I get my check and then I leave. And as I'm leaving, though, people were coming up to me and saying thank you, and they were very appreciative. And but I was, I still felt really bad. Like, it was the one time I thought I was going to quit comedy, and we were talking about Nathan Holtz just a minute ago. We're real good buds because he's who I called as I'm driving home. The gig was in Brookings at the time. I was living in Huron, so I was on my way back to Huron driving. I called Nathan up, and he had to talk me off the ledge. And then,
goodness,
I didn't listen to the recording for probably 3 or 4 years. I just couldn't do it. And then I finally did. And then when I listened back, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah, and I think that happens to so many people. And I will always remember one thing that my friend Toby Kane told us before we ever did our first improv show. He said 95% of the people in the audience don't have the guts to do what we're doing. They're going to love us regardless. And, and then there's also those times where...
That's a great perspective.
Yeah, and there's also those times where you may not be hearing the laughter while you're on stage, but people are enjoying it and thinking it's clever and so forth. And then, of course, you get from one audience to the next. One night, something bombs. The next night, you are a hero with that joke.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing. I feel like a lot of comedians tend to overlook how... Like, just because the audience isn't necessarily laughing. And unfortunately, with comedy, you need that instant gratification because if you don't know if it's working, if they're not laughing and looking like they're enjoying themselves. But there's some people that enjoy themselves without looking like they're enjoying themselves. Because I've had plenty of shows where I felt like, not necessarily that I bombed, but I didn't think it was a great show because the audience wasn't giving me anything. And then after the show, they were like, "This was the greatest show I've ever been to." And I'm like, well... Maybe smile then. It's like, because it's definitely a craft where you have to feed off energy. We as comedians feed off the energy of the crowd, and that pumps us up, and then they feed off our energy, and it's a back and forth. We share this energy back and forth, and if the audience isn't giving you any energy, then you don't put any more energy into it.
Also, a great little feature of your podcast is the fact that it builds other relationships for other people that have been on it, listen to it, and so forth. Great example. I had been a guest on your show, and we were talking about marketing and so forth, and I mentioned the fact that I take a lot of my pens, and I'll leave them for wait staff and whatever, and I'll even tell people, go ahead and lose it. It goes on to somebody else to read it, too. And Jenny Lou Rusi heard that one. And so she was just in town a week back, and the first time that I had met her a year or two back, she had listened to that episode, and she says, "I will always have pens with me now." And but at that time she didn't. So then a couple of weeks ago, saw her on a Saturday night here in town, and first thing she does is, "Oh, Dave, here you go."
Pulls out a pen. I love that. Yeah. That's awesome.
So fun stuff that comes out of it. And to think that, in this regard, it all came about because of bombing. Yeah. And
and when I started the podcast, that was kind of the reason. Like, there's kind of the trope, and even more so now, about how every comedian has a podcast, which is true, it seems like. But then it was a lot of podcasts, comedy podcasts were kind of the same thing. It was a couple comedians interviewing another comedian, but they were asking like the same questions, or maybe they were talking, maybe they would get, into the nuts and bolts of comedy, but nobody was talking about bombing and what you were learning from it. There wasn't a podcast that was taking that angle and that perspective and like reverse engineering it. And I thought, well, this is an opportunity because now I want to talk to other people about bombing, because I felt like, I was almost ready to quit. And then one of the greatest things that came out of it for me is that I learned that I'm not the only one that was bombing. Like the people and the people who are getting better bomb. You have to bomb to get better. And that's like the greatest takeaway I got from doing that podcast.
Who was the biggest bomb that you were surprised by?
Oh man. There's been a lot. I think the biggest bomb that I was surprised because the amount of people they walked. So that I think it was like episode 50, a comedian. I don't even think he does comedy anymore, but his name was Andrew Dean, and he told a story about how him and some other comedians, they put on a show at a venue in San Diego called 4th and B. And this is like 1,000-seat venue. And so it was like a showcase style situation. So that way they had 4 or 5 comedians on the show. So they all busted their butts promoting. They were handing out flyers. They're doing all the things. And they packed it. They sold it out. And he was going up right before the headliner. And he walked almost 1,000 people. He did so bad that they got up and left.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's probably the biggest bomb that I've heard, and the biggest surprise, just because even in a situation like, somebody's bombing, usually people will sit through it. But the fact that almost 1,000 people just left.
Yikes.
Yeah. That's
oh my
brutal.
Goodness. At what point in your career, or even before you started comedy, who was the artist that had an album out, a comic that had an album, and you said, I want to do that someday? Actually, not just perform and be a comic, but to have an album.
I don't know. For me, I don't know, because honestly, growing up, I was more into sketch than I was stand. Like I liked all comedy, but I was more into sketch. Like I loved Kids in the Hall. I loved Saturday Night Live. I loved In Living Color. Like all those great sketch shows was what I was really into. And then I would watch stand up because like as a kid, my dad watched a lot of comedy movies. Like and I got to see Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke.
Oh,
I was
yes.
probably like 9 years old, and I got to watch stuff like that. And, he loved Benny Hill. So we watched that.
Classic,
Johnny Carson.
Man.
I got exposed to a lot of comedy, but not necessarily just stand up specific. But I guess if I had to pick somebody, that it would probably have to be George Carlin. I mean,
yeah.
And now my like he's still on that conversation. A lot of times as a comedian, I get asked who your favorite comedians are, or who I think the greatest comedian is of all time. And anytime somebody asks me that, I say, okay, I have this. We got to break this up. There's 2 conversations here. There's greatest comedian that is no longer with us, and there is your favorite comedian still working, alive and working today. You got to break these up because there's too many greats. Period. And to just pick one, I just can't do it. I have to divide it into categories.
What's your favorite category to talk about?
For jokes or
for putting together a set? For
putting together a set, I don't have as many as but I do like a good silly dad joke. But for me though, my favorite thing is to talk about myself, because that's a lot of what my material is. Because
do we still have the sweater dress?
I don't do it as often because it was one of the jokes that's on my album, and so a lot of the material on the album I don't do live anymore because I'm working on my new hour. But I still do pull it out from time to time.
Okay,
depending on situation, it does come out. I do pull the dress out now and again.
Yeah, because I was putting on a pair of shorts the other day, and I looked down at my legs, and because I sit for my regular job, some of my sweater dress is now gone. It's just these little patches and little strips going down my legs. And it's like, oh, God, Bublitz would hate this.
Yeah, you got a holy sweater dress.
Very much so. And for those that don't know what we're talking about, go see him tonight.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now I'll do it. I'll have to do that joke tonight just because we talked about it. I'll even call it out. I'll say this one's for all the people that are here because of the Dave Hawley podcast.
Oh, gosh. So 3 people are going to be showing up for that.
Well, hey, that's great. I'll take it.
Yeah. You know what?
3
What's
people.
the smallest crowd you've ever played for?
Probably like 1 or 2 people.
It was. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I had 6 one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we ended up having to perform. I've definitely been to shows where nobody showed up, and then we just didn't do it. Although, I feel like one time I still had to perform. Or maybe that was another comic story. I mean, you hear so many of these stories that I can't remember if it was mine or somebody told me this, but like nobody was there and they still had to go. They basically had to perform for the staff, which to me is just weird.
I have a good friend that is a national public speaker, and he said, when you quote somebody in your speech, he says, you do that, the first couple of times. As so-and-so says, He says, then you start to go, as many of you have probably heard, such and such. And he says, then you got to own it after that. As I always say. So it can be
so true.
Yeah. Have you ever found somebody to take some of your material?
No. Not nobody's either asked for my jokes or stolen,
right?
Yeah. And that's fine, because that's one thing with mine, and that's how I kind of combat joke thievery. Like people could steal my jokes, but they're not going to be able to deliver it the way I do, because I'm doing material that is personal. A lot of my material stems from my real life, and I do a lot more story jokes, and I do some observational stuff, but it's all stuff that's personal to me, in my perspective. Like I talk about, I have stories about, growing up. Like one of my favorite books was the Choose Your Own Adventure novels, and so I have some jokes about that, and then I have jokes about when I was married or in a relationship or things like that. So like they're very personal, so somebody could steal the words, but they're not gonna be able to steal the essence of the joke. And that's kind of how I combat that.
Has heckling gone down?
No, I don't think so. I think
really it's still out there.
I feel like now, because a lot of comedians are putting crowd work clips up, that was like a trend on TikTok and Instagram, that we're seeing it. I'm seeing, at least in my opinion, I'm seeing 2 things happen. One, people don't want to sit in the front row because they're afraid they're going to be part of the show. Right. So you're trying to get people to fill that front row is tough unless it's sold out and there's no choice. And then on the other side of that, people do want to sit up front because they want to be part of the show. They're hoping they're going to get in the clip that goes viral. And so they're trying to heckle.
Yeah. All right. So social media has made its way to doing that.
That's in my opinion, at least in my opinion, that's how I feel about it.
All right. So you're playing tonight at the club underneath Lucky's.
Yep.
And your start.
Yeah, I'm going back to where it all began.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, tonight's going to be a lot better than when I did it 14 years ago.
And a little longer set, too.
A lot longer.
Yeah.
I think I did like 7 minutes at that open mic, 5 or 7. I don't remember exactly. And tonight I'll be doing probably a 45 to an hour. So
looking forward to it.
It's going to be a
what
good
time, by the way?
I believe the show's at 7:30.
Okay.
Or 8. I'm terrible about that part.
Who else is in it with you? Who's opening, hosting, and featuring?
Luke Johnson, I think, is hosting.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
Sarah Manson is doing a spot, and Alicia Rain is on the show. All right. Now I got to pull up this flyer because you called me out.
I know, but
I should have had these details ready, and I'm over here like,
well, in the meantime, I do want to give a nod to both of those ladies, because Alicia is going to be in our Vaughties show coming up June 6th here at Sioux Falls. And Sarah's also on the agenda later on in the year to be in that. So,
that's going to be great.
And great stuff that they did, or that Sarah did a while back here in town for the Sisters Soapbox show that they did.
Mm-hmm. They've been doing a lot of stuff
Windows had put together.
Yep.
Fun time.
That's great. Okay, so doors are at 7:30, shows at 8 tonight.
Exactly.
Club 222.
Yes.
Basement of Lucky's, downtown.
In downtown Sioux Falls. All right.
And I was right about the lineup. Yeah. At least I have that part right.
All right. So you have been on a few times before, and I always used to ask the question, I still do for first-time guests, the old, when you're not entertaining, what do you like to be entertained by, hobbies, things along that line. So first, before I do get to the new question, you still making games?
Oh, yeah, I still have my games. Yeah, I still sell that for merch.
Okay,
good. That's still my main merch. I have I do stickers and the drinking game.
Yeah,
so that's still going.
All right, but do you have a word for like this year, or is there a word that is a mantra for you in your life? Inspiration.
I don't know if I would have one word, but I actually have this tattooed, and it's just like a little mantra for. I mean, it more so for the stage, but it applies to life too. And it's, what is it? Be present, smile, and have fun. And I have that tattooed on my arm. So it's like my mantra when I'm on stage, but also in life.
Fantastic. Dan Bublitz Jr. Always a pleasure to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, always. Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
It's
so good to see you.
Yeah,
I just got to I got to say that too. It has been a while.
Yeah,
you're looking good. You're studious.
Thank you.
You're making my. You started after me, but you're making me look like I'm like I slacked off.
Well, you got to get that labeled bottle. That's the kicker.
That is the kicker. You're very fancy up here in the studio. Right. And if I could, if you don't come to the show, you can follow me online, dbubcomedy.com. And I do have another podcast. If you like comic books, you were talking about hobbies.
That's right.
That's my hobby. I'm a big avid comic book guy, reader, and collect toys. And I started a podcast with another comedian from Omaha, Jeremy Plum. It's called The Panel Picks, and we do a breakdown every week of what's coming out for New Comic Book Day and what we're excited about and what other people should be excited about.
Well,
so check that out.
After hearing all that you still do and so forth, get some rest.
Yeah, especially before I perform tonight.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, Dan. And we'll be back with more of the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Comedy magician and hypnotist Jesse Moffat's right. He can't play the piano, but he can sure entertain crowds with his amazing magic and clever quips. His shows always make the participants the stars, especially when they've fallen asleep on stage. They've been hypnotized. Are you the party planner in your group? Then you owe it to your group to make the event magical, even if it puts you to sleep. Here's how.
For booking information, go to Jesse Moffitt Entertainment on Facebook. That's JESSEMOFFITT. Or call 605-929-0964.
Check out the new ceramic studio in Sioux Falls, conveniently located off Kiwanis Avenue on 5th Street. TJS Ceramics, inside Oscar's Mini Storage. Bisque, studio time, painting parties, and finished items are available. Visit TJS Ceramic Studio in Sioux Falls today.
People ask him where he got his top shelf voice. Dime store? Bargain. Once again, here's Dave Holly.
Welcome back, everyone. Yes, you know what I love to say, that it's always a pleasure to talk Sioux Empire arts and entertainment, and it's always fun to introduce a new guest to you, and for me to get to know them a little bit better, and just to talk about the fun stuff that they're doing in the Sioux Empire, whether it be in arts, entertainment, whatever the genre. And, of course, you do know there are times where I have a slash person on. Where they're singer-songwriter, that's a big one, or actor-director, or in the case of Max Hofer, creator, writer, producer, director, actor, copywriter, everything else. Max, how are you?
I'm good. I think you left a few of them out there, but that's okay. I'll let it slide.
Well, tell me. What's missing in that resume right there?
Honestly, I think you did actually.
Okay.
Cover it. I was just making a joke. Jokester, maybe terrible jokester.
Well, yeah, comic.
Comic, yeah.
Yeah, see,
Yes, yeah.
when I did miss that one. Damn.
It's okay. We'll cut that out.
Oh no, I rarely edit. This is
Oh, yeah.
episode number 230. I have edited 4 times.
Oh wow, good for you.
Yeah. I just think people love hearing the actual conversation, and we don't need to take out all the ums, ands, stuff like that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
'Cause I have a lot I need to get out.
Yeah, unless there's like a minute stretch where you can't think of anything. Then I'll go in and we'll shorten that up to like a second or 2.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll take care of you, cover your ass that way, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
you're quite welcome.
Big D covering my ass.
Yes. That's boy. There's a joke right there, isn't there? Yep. Oh man, so great to have you here at the Dipsy Doodle Productions studio, and you are familiar with production studios because you are a creator and a copywriter, and you do a lot with agencies.
Yes.
We'll talk about all the filmmaking stuff in a bit, but let's give people the background of Max Hofer.
Yeah. Well, I guess my background in production. I guess how far back do I go? As far back
To the beginning.
To the beginning. Well,
Yes.
it was February 1996. I was born.
Okay. Yeah.
Flash forward a little bit. So essentially, my background in production, I guess, came kind of just from playing around with my dad's camera growing up. Kind of developed a fascination. Like it was just like either making my own mini films with my friends,
Right.
with my siblings. I was always asked to record family events, graduations, things like that, just because I loved being behind a camera. And that eventually, I don't know, that kind of was kind of stuck with me. And I was always making little videos, and I don't know, I always admired, like I loved watching movies, and so that kind of was a big interest to me, and I'm rambling a little bit. But either way.
That's the purpose of this show, ramble.
Ramble, yes. Yeah. Okay. I'll try to keep it coherent. So yeah, that the love has always kind of been there. And I guess my professional production career really began in college when I started, co-started a radio show with 3 of my friends. We called it Moldy Grapes. Not quite sure why, but we just had a fun time kind of shooting the breeze on that show, making each other laugh, playing good music we all liked, introducing each other to other music we enjoyed. So that was always really fun. And I was also majoring in journalism at the time too. Mm-hmm. So I was involved.
So where'd you go to school?
Oh, sorry, University of South Dakota.
Okay, USD. Yeah.
Yep, USD.
Yeah, good schools for all of the above.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They had a lot of good classes that I was involved in there, which involved in going out and like interviewing students, cutting together commercials, doing things like the Red Report, kind of putting together a news broadcast. So that stuff was really, really fun. And so it was just another version of that thing I liked to do as a kid.
Right.
But it was just a cool, creative new way to kind of explore that. So
at what point did you determine it was going to be production and so forth that you were in versus doing a news report and becoming a broadcaster?
When I decided to do production, I guess that's always like kind of been there, but I didn't probably acknowledge it until about college. Do I realize, oh yeah, this can be like legit.
Yeah. When you watch something on TV, there are other jobs besides those reading the news.
Exactly, right? And so that was always just something I kind of like gravitated to / stumbled into. So that was quite the journey there. But yeah, after college, I ended up doing some interning at the White Wall Sessions.
Okay.
Worked with Jeff Zuger a little bit. He kind of took me under his wing, showed me a little bit more about radio, editing for television, helping shoot a few episodes of the White Wall Sessions, which was really fun. So got some kind of background production there. So I've been kind of doing a lot of odds and ends stuff just to learn as much as I can over the years. And then post-college, I got my first big boy job working at broadcast news.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
And where was that then?
That was Kellerland.
Kellerland.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I do recall that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I do recall some of that. In the meantime, though, what do you enjoy about the production aspect of it?
The production aspect of
anything that you work on, because you've been involved in some big productions that people don't realize are big productions because they see 30 seconds or 60 seconds and don't realize somebody had to build a set for this. And this is not just a retailer saying, hey, I've got a sale coming up. Can you guys come out and shoot some stuff and just talk about what the great prices are? These are well thought through themes that are going on. And so what excites you about putting together something along that line?
I'd say the most exciting part is, apologize for my scratchy throat, I'm a little nervous. The most exciting part, I'd say, is just the collaborative aspect, getting to work with all these really, really talented people, because that's been the most fun and consistent thing from going from production to production is the people you meet. Usually sometimes you come in with a preconceived idea of how it's going to be, but then someone throws in another idea and you're like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. And you kind of play off each other. And then before you know it, you've made something totally new together.
Yeah.
And that's always my favorite part of it.
Well, I guess the thing that I love about collaboration in this community as well is that a lot of people still actually in arts and entertainment believe in the art, pun intended, of, brainstorming, of actual brainstorming, not, everybody throws out an idea and immediately somebody says, no, can't do that. But people, because we're creatives, look at things differently and go, okay, yeah, but how could we do it?
Yeah.
What's been the biggest problem you've ever had to solve in the production?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question, actually.
I get in one per interview.
Oh, my. The biggest problem I've had to solve for production, I guess, so the first thing I guess that comes to mind is when, I don't know if you've seen my short film Kitman.
Yes.
So usually there's two things that they always advise for young filmmakers when they're starting out. Two major things, two major rules. Never work with children or pets.
Yep.
And so, the short, I needed to work with a cat. It needed a cat. Uh-huh. And so my roommate, luckily, his cat volunteered for the job. He was the right man for the job. And so basically my biggest problem was just not really knowing up until the day we actually shot if he was going to be able to do what we needed him to do. Because he loved chasing that laser around. Mm-hmm. But then the next day I go to practice with him. He doesn't want it. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of taking that risk or that just okay, we're going to try this. We're going to try and see if it works, kind of holding out some faith, holding out some hope, and lightning strikes, thankfully.
Yeah, and then you're sitting there going, okay, if it doesn't work, is there anything we can take from America's Funniest Videos?
Do I have a cat costume downstairs I can put on quick?
True. And we're going to get to that in just a little bit. Oh, let's just jump into it then. Talking about the filmmaking. So how many films have you produced to this point?
To this point, I'd say 4.
Okay.
4 films.
Right.
3,
all shorts?
Yep, 3 narrative shorts and 1 documentary.
Okay. All right. And so the narrative versus the documentary. Mm-hmm. What are the differences that the average movie watcher isn't going to realize between the two? They know what a documentary is for the most part, but I guess, sometimes when we think shorts, we don't think of the documentary as much.
Yeah. I think the biggest separator is how you approach the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because narrative shorts, like we were talking about earlier, you can, collaborate with people to tell a cohesive story, make it all your own. You create that world, you make the rules. But with a documentary, you're pulling things from a world that already exists, our world, and you let the people who you're talking to, you can ask as many questions to kind of get what you want, but oftentimes it's them telling the story and you're finding the best way to get that story across in a really engaging and impactful way that interests people.
Yeah.
So,
and now there's, we've gone to subtitles of documentaries, or subsets, I should say, where you've got the mockumentary, you've got the biopic, you've got another style of documentary where nobody except the people that you shoot for the film are in it. Mm-hmm. There's no introduction anywhere else or anything along that line. It's just boom, right at you. And so what's the dream for Max Hofer as filmmaker? Do you want to move on to full-length documentaries? Do you want to move on to full feature films?
I'd say if best of both worlds, I could do both. But I'd say I personally gravitate towards doing a full-length feature film. I've actually been working on one since college. I have been working on it for about coming on probably, I think 2026 will be like 10 years I've been working on this one script. But I've had a few other like feature-length scripts too that have kind of come up in between that some that are just terrible, like early, like I didn't know what I was doing. And then like some that I'm like, oh, that's actually not half bad now. But of course I'm the only one reading it. So it's like, I got to get it in front of other people. But the idea, the dream would be to do a feature length production at some point, but I'm working my way up there with shorts, like adding a minute at a time.
You gonna have a role for an old guy?
I think I could. Might be able to if you know of one.
Yeah, I even know of a Santa Claus if we need one. We've gotten to work a couple of times together.
Yeah,
which is like way too many times short.
Right.
Because we need to work together a lot.
We do.
Because I like you, first of all. You're a great person. And you've got such energy for what you do. And passion is such a thing for me. And I always tell a lot of guests that, my passion is your passion. You talk about yours, and then I'm like glowing from it. Like, isn't this so cool?
Yeah.
And what great things people are doing in the community. And but let's talk about the shorts that you've got out there, including one called Charlie.
Yes.
And it's nominated for a few things, right?
Yeah, well, it's been officially selected for a couple of film festivals. Recently got accepted to the Snake Alley Festival of Film in Burlington, Iowa, so that's exciting. They had Kitman there, I believe it was last year, too. So, and that was nominated to win Best Comedy. Didn't win, but it was still like just a pleasure for that recognition. But yeah, it's exciting that Charlie's such an interesting film that I'm not ever sure how people are going to react to it when they watch it. So it's always like,
There's a sidebar story that we'll get to later on this. But Bob Nelson, who has the world's largest theatrical family, is the one that ended up playing, do you call that a lead role?
The Titilier character.
Okay, all right, yeah. But how long is that actual movie?
It's about 5 minutes or so.
About 5, okay.
Yeah.
What qualifies as a short to be in a film festival or to be nominated for something?
Well, it kind of varies from festival to festival. I know sometimes festivals will qualify. So through my filmmaking, I've discovered of a new subgenre of shorts called micro shorts.
See, I hadn't heard that one yet.
I hadn't either until I was trying to submit to a festival, and they said, submit your short film anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. And I'm like, well, mine's like 5 minutes or less. And then I saw a category that said micro shorts. I'm like, that's right.
There it is.
Short and punchy.
Right. So it's a micro short film by Max Hofer.
Yes.
Did you create all this? Did you do all the writing? What part didn't you do besides, play Charlie and the part that Beth Olson also was in?
Yeah. So when it came to Charlie, that idea was inspired last year when my girlfriend and I got our puppy.
Okay.
And I don't know. I tend to trail off and think about weird stuff. So when she's, talking to our dog, her name is Hazel. And she's like, oh, Hazel, like, who's a good girl? Or like, she, pees on the floor. It's like, oh, naughty girl.
Right.
And then my head starts going places like, oh, that could be, what if someone wasn't talking about a dog? And so then the idea just kind of ended up writing itself. And Charlie was actually, I think, a really good exercise in collaboration, because I had actually written it one way, and then I was thinking, like, I feel like there's something missing. I feel like I need to add more to this script. It was originally about 3 pages. I wanted something nice and tight, but I was like, I feel like I'm missing something. So I actually ran it by her, and then I ran it by another buddy of mine, and they really helped me round out the rest of the story. So that was kind of a fun aspect of making that one, and just getting everybody a part of it to make something kind of a little
How
quirky.
did you convince some people?
Well, actually, you know what, Dave? It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
It was, so I was searching for searching for my Charlie and my Edna, who would soon be Beth and Bob.
Yep.
We'll talk about in a little bit. But essentially, I kind of put out a call, and I was asking. I brought it up to my chiropractor of all people. I'm like, I've got this short idea. I kind of just unload everything on him, and I was just like, yeah, this is kind of a goofy idea. It's written, and I love where it's at. I don't know who I'm going to cast. I don't know if I know any of age people to play the characters I want. And he was like, well, I got a buddy of mine who might be good for this role. And you're familiar with Chris Andrews.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got an email from him.
Yes. So he first recommended Chris for the part. And I was like, heck yeah, I've seen Improv Balls. Like, I like Chris. This is great. And he said, yeah, he and his wife would probably be down to do it. Talked to Chris. He said he enjoyed the story. The role wasn't for him. I was like totally understood. I knew this would be a big reach. And so he recommended a few people, you being one of them.
Yes. Yep.
And yeah, so then I ended up, and honestly, anyone who passed on this, I was not going to at all.
Right.
It was just like, this is a weird thing to ask for.
Well, there's so many things you get in emails, text messages, and so forth that you go, is this real? And I knew that at the time that I got this message from Chris that he was on vacation in Hawaii. So I'm sitting there going, this is just odd. And, you would have to do this in the part, etc. And then the point of saying, well, the guy's name is Max Hofer. I think he's on the up and up. I don't know. It's like, well, I know who Max is. Max is on the up and up, but is this on the up and up? So then I tell mutual friend Graham Wilson, he says, I got the same message, and it's word for word from Chris Andrews. And it's like, oh, yeah, we're being scammed or something. And then all of a sudden, our dear Bob comes out and says, yeah, I'm in this short movie called Charlie. You want to take a look at it now? And I sit there and I'm just laughing, first of all, at the storyline and everything that comes about and going, oh, man, I skipped on that. But it has such a great punchline to it.
Thank you.
Is how I would say. You don't think of a movie, even a short, being a punchline. Mm-hmm. You expect punchlines in it, but the actual end of that is the punchline, and it's so well played out. And, to see Beth Olson in it and being the, do you say owner?
Yeah, we'll say the owner.
We'll say the owner of Charlie, and looking for Charlie, and the descriptions that are coming out when people are asking about, well, what's it look like, and so forth. And it's just such a kick, and it was so, because at first you get a little shock value.
Yep.
But then you're sitting there realizing this was cleverly done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just so much fun. So let's see. I know Beth and Bob. Who else was in this?
Reed Baxter.
Reed, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
Yep. And Haley Schmidt played his wife off screen. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, see? So you ended up with great people.
Yeah, fantastic people. And they were all so excited. If anything, I think the person who was like the most skeptical about it was probably me at the end of the day, because I'm pinching myself like when we're on set, like they're actually doing this, like they're on board, like their belief and commitment in the story, like further cemented belief in myself. And I hope they realize that they were so committed. Yeah. They brought things that I wasn't even expecting, and they blew me away. And it was just so fun. They were all so great.
Shoot it all in one day?
Shot all in one day, one afternoon, and it happened to be the weekend of the Sioux Empire Fair, so none of my neighbors were around. We shot it at my parents' house
shot on real life location.
Oh yes, that was probably the biggest thing I was worried about.
Well, did you even think of contacting law enforcement or, hey, we're going to need this street off for a couple hours?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of like we'll
Have
shoot
you showed
it
to the mayor?
Not yet. Maybe he's seen it. I have no idea.
True, you never know.
That was a thing. It was kind of like, I'm just blessed enough to have people willing to do this.
Right.
If we get in trouble during production, I'll ask for forgiveness some other time.
Instead of permission. I always like that phrase too.
Yep.
But when you get people to do things, first of all, the collaboration, we've talked about that a couple of times already, but it's just, such a strong bond, and it shows in that. Here it is, a little 5-minute comedy, but it's still people that love acting, being in a production, and we sometimes think, well, we're all just a bunch of people in community theater. Yes, but I'm going to throw the word out there, even though they may not be getting paid greatly, professional.
Yes.
Everybody is professional. And that's such a great thing to see. So what was your budget for this?
Well, actually, because I knew I would need to, because with every short film, you always kind of learn something. So I figured for this one, I really wanted to, give the people who helped me shoot, like my DP Taylor Yoakum. I wanted to make sure he had the best equipment on set and everything. And so I reached out to a few friends who were able to loan some stuff, but to kind of offset some of the other props and things we had to invest in. I actually got a micro grant from the Sioux Falls Art Council.
Aren't those wonderful?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
It was my first time applying, and they were so and again, it was like, this is what I'm filming. And they were like, here you go. Do it. Fulfill your dreams. I'm like, you guys are the best.
And it's also the absolute easiest grant form to fill out.
Oh, easy. So easy. I've never filled out a grant before, and they walked me through it step by step.
Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Hey, well, you're entered in it.
Yeah.
So now you are entered in a film festival.
Yes.
And just entered at this point, and then will they make some decisions, or how does the process go the rest of the way on this?
So summer is kind of so a lot of the film festivals kind of have their film festivals all around the same time is what I'm finding out, like September, October, that range. So right now, a lot of the festivals are like looking over screenings, looking over the films that have been submitted, and trying to pick which ones they actually want to be in their festival. So right now, some festivals have made their selections, and so then it's just kind of wait until festival day, and then some will have an award ceremony after, maybe not. And either way, it's just nice to know the film is getting out there,
right?
That people are having maybe similar reactions. And then there'll be festivals, or at least the ones I've been in, have been really good about notifying if, hey, your film's a winner, or hey, your film is acknowledged for this, and they're really great.
What about everybody that's listening to this that hasn't seen this so far? How do they go about seeing it?
Oh man, well, if they haven't seen it before, they're probably very confused what we're talking about.
That's why I wanted to throw it out for you to say, hey, well, we're teasing. This is a 26-minute tease so far.
Longer than the actual tease.
Yes.
So yeah, if people want to go watch my short film Charlie, they can visit Climax Productions on YouTube.
Okay.
Yep, that's my production company.
Okay.
That's where everything that pops in my head, that's where
it all goes.
Lives. Yes, that's where it all goes.
Fantastic, man. Yeah. I love that, and so looking forward to hearing good things coming from festivals about Charlie.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So what's next then? You said you've got some ideas for some full feature length and a few other things, but will there be a Charlie 2? Are we going to have sequels, short sequels?
Charlie 2, that's I've had ideas. maybe Charlie has friends, who knows? That's yet to be explored, but there is other ideas.
Oh my God, I just thought of one with Bob.
Oh no.
Charlie becomes a daddy.
Oh, he might already be.
That's true.
What's next, actually, I'd say. So currently working on another short film right now. It's still early in development, maybe planning to shoot that one hopefully next summer. Because this year I'm actually helping to put on a film festival here in town. I'm working with Rare by Design, local nonprofit.
Right.
They do, for those who aren't familiar, they actually raise awareness about people with rare diseases and disabilities. And so I'm actually helping them put on what they call the film festival. And so, yeah, we're looking to have that on September 19th at the downtown State Theater.
Okay.
So, yeah, we've been working really hard, and our submissions are opening on June 1st. So if you are a filmmaker or know one who has rare disease or disability, you can submit a film, any genre. It can be documentary, comedy, drama, whatever you want. Submit it to the festival, and it'll have the chance to be at our State Theater.
There is a bigger film community in this town than I ever imagined. I knew there'd be a big film community, people that just enjoy watching. But in terms of film making and, different podcasts and so forth, there's a lot going on in the film community.
Oh, tons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got that going on. And, is this first time for that then?
Yep, this is the first annual.
Okay. And you got an idea as to how many submissions you're either taking or how many you're hoping send in?
Yeah, well, it's kind of tough being, as this is my first festival I've ever helped put on. It's always tough kind of establishing that initial momentum, but there's a lot of people in the community that know Rare by Design that have been to some of their other events like the Style Show. So I think they have. Right. We've been in our own different camps telling people about it, and I think there's people that, oh wait, I know someone who'd be perfect for this. So I was talking to Kendra, the executive director, and I think we have a few people that are looking forward to submitting some stuff.
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
Not sure in total how many, but I think we'll have a fair amount of submissions this year. Yeah. Hoping so, anyways.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Max, as we come to the end of today's programming, there's, as a first-time guest, you get 2 questions.
Ooh.
All right. How you answer question number 1 determines whether question number 2 gets asked. But when you're not part of the arts and entertainment community, what do you like to be entertained by?
What do I like to be entertained by? Well, honestly, it's watching movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love watching. Sometimes I don't make enough time for them as much as I'd love to, but man, it just, for me, nothing's better than getting lost in a good movie.
Do you have any, what I like to call default movies? Those that, you're flipping channels and you see it may be an hour in, but you love this film and you will stop and watch it from that point on?
Yeah.
Or should I say how many?
How many? Gosh, how many fingers do I have on my hand? So there's so many, but I'd say 2 immediately that come to mind.
Okay.
Back to the Future.
Oh.
That movie, Infectious. That's one of the movies that like literally made me fall in love with filmmaking. Yep. Every time there's a screening of it, like if Cinemark is showing it, or I don't know if the State Theater has shown it yet on the big screen. But like anytime there's a big screen showing, I never miss it. Yeah. I even did like the Back to the Future marathon when when that played on the anniversary of when they go to the future. So I will watch that. I never get tired of that movie.
All right.
That and the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what a fun franchise.
Oh, so fun. It's like when a raccoon and a talking tree can make you cry, you know you've got something special.
Quickly back to the Future before we move on to that second question then.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite parts about Back to the Future was the language difference between the 50s and the 80s. If my calculations are correct, in 60 seconds we should see some serious shit.
Yep.
And then back in the 50s, if my calculations are correct, in 60 seconds, everything should be fine.
Yeah, right.
Just all those little things that, the parallels of the 2 different time frames and so forth. And Reagan as the president, the actor, and then the things that you catch the next time you might be watching the movie at the beginning.
Yes.
That are some great pieces of foreshadowing.
Oh, yeah.
About the end.
Well, even when you're first just panning over all the clocks and you see the guy hanging from the tower, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, I think it's like my 5th time I finally caught that. And I was like, oh man, okay. It's just, and that's what I love. That's why filmmaking is such an art.
Right.
Because there's always something to analyze, something to take away, and it's whether it's a small detail or a new theme you find at whatever time in life you're in.
Or Bob Nelson being a dog.
Or Bob Nelson being a dog. The best boy.
Oh, definitely. All right, then the second question, any other hobbies?
Any other hobbies? Honestly, just writing.
Yeah.
I love being able to write, and also I've been really doing a lot of reading this year too.
Mm-hmm.
Reading's become a big hobby of mine. It's funny. I always for the longest time I wasn't into reading all that much, and I always thought there was always a little part of me that was kind of aching at myself, oh, how can you be a writer if you don't read anything? And it's just honestly, it's okay, but you don't have to read to write, but you actually should be able to read if you want to write, so you know what you're writing. But I've been reading a lot more, and I've just been really enjoying that.
Any favorite authors?
Any favorite authors? Maybe, honestly, not at the moment. I'm kind of still finding.
You like a particular genre, really?
I'm kind of dabbling in all genres.
Mm-hmm.
I read a spy espionage thriller earlier this year. I read a creepy horror this year. Now I'm reading a self-help book. So
all right.
I'm jumping around.
Well, I don't know why you need any self-help. You seem to be doing quite well.
Oh.
Max Hofer, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you being on the show and taking the time to be here.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me, Dave. This is awesome. This is so cool.
And I guarantee you will be back at some point.
Yes.
All right. Yes. And we'll be back to wrap up the Dave Holly Hour in just a moment.
Dr. Perry Langston and Dr. Corey Tooney know excellence is in you. That's why they provide you with excellent care at XL Chiropractic, improving your overall health in spirit, body, mind, and will. Get results the natural way. Arrange a consultation, 605-332-9235 or xlchiros.com. Excellent care for excellent people. XL Chiropractic, located at 4309 South Racket Drive in Sioux Falls.
Ladies, when it's time to give your nails some love, get that extra special treatment from Quality Nails on South Minnesota Avenue in Sioux Falls. Manicures and pedicures that look great and make you feel fantastic. Zaya and Tony provide professional care for your hands and feet, whether you just want the basics or an extra special look with added flair. Oh, and guys, it's okay to treat yourself too. Quality Nails. Call for an appointment, 605-334-1463.
He's jazzed to the eyeballs. Once again, here's Dave Hawley. Crikey, mate.
Thanks again to my great guests, Dan Bublitz Jr. and Max Hofer. As always, the biggest thank you goes to each of you for listening, downloading, sharing, and following. And for those of you that have not done so, don't forget to follow Dave Holly Hour on Facebook and Instagram. Now, for all 230 episodes, go online, davehollyhour.com. While you're on that site, there is a search function. You can look up some of your favorite artists. If they've been on the show before, you can go back and listen anytime to those previous episodes. As the Sioux Falls Arts Council says, together we art. As Arts South Dakota says, home is where the art is. As I say, put some art in your heart. Remember, my name is Dave Holly, and for me, every day is a holiday.
The Dave Holly Hour has been brought to you by TJS Ceramic Studio, Serendipity Studio Gallery and Gifts, Chasers Food and Spirits, XL Chiropractic, Quality Nails, Jesse Moffitt Entertainment, and the Sioux Falls Arts Council. If you would like to contribute to the continued success of this podcast, simply buy Dave a cup of coffee. Go to davehollyhour.com and click on the coffee cup icon. Don't forget to stay up to date on the show by following on Instagram and Facebook. The Dave Holly Hour is produced in the Dipsy Doodle Studios by Big D Entertainment.
Thanks for listening.